Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting of the June 23rd, 2025 California Housing Finance Agency Board together. I'd like to welcome everyone to the meeting. We've got some new members, and we'll talk about that in a second. But in the meantime, Courtney, can you please call the roll?
Certainly. Ms. Cabildo?
Present.
Chair Cervantes?
Present.
Secretary Moss? Mr. Hardiman?
Present.
Ms. Limon? Mr. Henning for Treasurer Ma? Mr. Prince?
Here.
Mr. Russell?
Present.
Secretary Sen? Ms. Sotelo? Director Velasquez?
Present.
Dr. White?
Here.
Mr. Williams?
Here.
Ms. Cuffle for Director CalHFA? Ms. Peralt? Ms. Franklin?
Present.
We have a quorum, Chair.
Great, thank you so much. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the last meeting on May 22nd. The minutes are in the package, and I'd like to see if anyone has any comments on the minutes, and or else if there's a motion to approve.
Move to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Thank you, Director Russell. Thank you, Director Williams. Motion made and seconded. Our protocol is to approve the minutes with a motion and a second, so thank you both very much. The third item, I would really, I'm very happy to extend a warm welcome to two new board members, and we've now been able to augment the board team thanks to the work of the appointments secretary. The first I'd like to introduce is Nick Hardiman, who is appointed by the governor and fills the public seat on our board. He's a principal at Hardiman Strategies and Consulting, has a long background working with the legislature, and I think will provide us some great perspective on things we should be aware of as a board. And Nick, I want to turn it to you for a second, just to introduce yourself to the board and to the members attending.
Thank you, Chair Cervantes. I'm very excited to be on this board. This is the third board that I've served on, either from an appointment from the governor's office or from the Senate Rules Committee. For those of you, Mr. Cervantes gave a little bit of my background, worked for 20 years in the state capitol and the legislature, the last 10 or so for Tony Atkins, who was the speaker and later the pro tem. Worked a lot on housing issues from a policy perspective. SB2, which is a permanent source of affordable housing, worked on the development of the last housing bond, and most recently on a number of zoning bills, for example, SB9, SB10, and housing streamlining bills. So I've been up close and personal with housing inside the building. When this opportunity came up from the governor's office, I thought what an amazing thing to be able to see things on the other end of the policy side here at CalHFA, and I really look forward to working with all of you. I really appreciate the warm welcome the staff has given me. I'm extraordinarily impressed by the team that CalHFA has and the professionalism that everyone conducts themselves. I feel, even though I've just had my orientation last week, I feel prepared for the meeting today, and I just thank you, everyone.
Great, Nick, we're delighted to have you with us and look forward to your perspective. Thank you very much. Our other new board member is Natalie Cuffle, who's the Deputy Director of Land Use at the Governor's Office of Land Use and Climate Innovation. And she's here today on behalf of Director CalHFA. She oversees a broad portfolio, which includes land use planning, CEQA policy, management of the state clearinghouse. It's a lot of work to cover. And Natalie, if you could maybe introduce yourself as well and tell us a bit about your background and yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much. So ditto everything that Nick said. He put it very eloquently. I won't repeat it, but very grateful to be here on behalf of Director CalHFA. We really appreciate having a role in the CalHFA board, and I'm excited to fill in as a delegate. So my background, I actually started in homeless services. I worked for a nonprofit here in Sacramento that ran emergency shelters, transitional housing, and permanent supportive housing, mainly for families and also single women. After that, I went to law school where I specialized in the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, and after that worked for a private CEQA law firms for a couple of years before coming to then the Office of Planning and Research, now the Governor's Office of Land Use and Climate Innovation, where I've been working on CEQA and housing policy ever since. One of my projects that I did was creating the site check tool, which allows developers and public agencies to see if a housing project might qualify for CEQA streamlining. So that's been a big focus of my career over the last few years, and excited to get to know more about housing finance here. Thank you.
Great. Natalie, we look forward to having you with us as well. Thank you so much for joining the board. With that, I'd like to turn this over to our acting director, Rebecca Franklin, for her comments.
Thank you, Chair Cervantes. I want to start my comments this morning with an update on the CalHFA Mortgage Fund Program, which are now currently accepting applications from homeowners who saw their homes destroyed or left uninhabitable by recent disasters. So a lot has happened since we've updated you last. On June 5th, we did a launch announcement for the CalHFA Mortgage Fund Program and website. Secretary Moss and myself and other community leaders gathered at the Altadena Library in Altadena, obviously, to announce the program going down there. And I know Director Velasquez has also spent a lot of time in that community. It's very impactful to see the destruction that had happened in that community, but also the resiliency of the community itself. And so I know this board was very passionate about being part of the rebuild and the solution. So really excited to be able to launch the program. As of Friday, I think. So when we announced on June 5th, we didn't open the applications until June 12th. So we wanted people to get a little bit of time to gather the necessary application materials, familiarize themselves with the program itself. As of Friday, we've had over 800 applications submitted. We also have over 800 applications saved, so they're not submitted. We'll be going through those saved applications and connecting with homeowners and asking if we can be of assistance on getting those applications submitted. A couple of interesting things that with those applications was, while we do have majority of the applications from homeowners in the Eaton and Palisades area, or fire area, we did actually have homeowners that are being affected by disasters throughout the state, so including the flooding and other winter storms that have happened between January 23 and January 25. In terms of outreach, we have a Spanish-speaking spokesperson who's done a lot of interviews. I also myself have done a lot of interviews with stations like ABC 7 News, KNX Radio LA, outlets in Redding, Chico, San Diego, along with others. It's been a busy couple weeks. We're also partnering with CalOES and other community-based organizations to have that presence on the ground in the LA area. We did hold our community-based organization did hold a meetup, like a physical meetup, to help homeowners who wanted to come to in the Altadena, Pasadena area last Saturday, I think it was. So again, our website is calassistmortgagefund.org. That website itself has a toolkit, a press toolkit, if anyone wanted to log on and see kind of the different materials, the interviews that we've conducted, also information about the program itself. I wanted to share, so we do survey applicants on their experience. It's really important to this program, as well as I know this board and some of the directors who've been through a few of these relief programs, that this application is simple, it's easy, it is not a stress-inducing process for people who, are facing the unimaginable. So I wanted to share this quote that we got on the first day that the applications were open. "Thank you for providing this opportunity to my son and I. It's been very difficult financially providing after the Eaton fire. Thank you for providing some hope and strengthening my faith that there are people and organizations that truly do care." So I just wanted to commend the board and its support, as well as the governor's office, as well as our friends at HCD, that allowed us to kind of take this thing from a concept to a reality that's affecting people's lives in about 3 months. So, government work at its fastest and finest. Another update I wanted to give the board is that it's on our bond recycling program, which has been going strong for 5 years now. In that time, CalHFA has used financing method to help finance the construction or preservation of 48 affordable housing developments. That is 6,700 units. Thanks to our Director of Financing, Erwin Tam, and his team, his amazing team, that they have secured new partners to provide a line of credit that is necessary for us to complete these bond recycling transactions. CalHFA closed on a line of credit with the Royal Bank of Canada last week, and we are working closely to close another line of credit with another bank shortly to finance this program and ensure we have those recycled bonds available for the future. Another thing, Erwin is going to be presenting the overall impact of the agency's bond recycling program in the July meeting. So we'll save all the hard bond recycling questions for Erwin next time. I'm really just excited. Not only have we just been out there producing new products, new programs, sources of funds, we actually have earned not externally, but we've also earned the Great Place to Work certification for our 4th consecutive year. So those of you who don't know, the Great Place to Work is a global authority on workplace culture. So this is a great honor. It's a staff survey that we take annually, and then we get the certification once we reach a certain percentage. To add to that, in our business plan, our strategic plan, we did have a strategic plan goal to grow that percentage of employee satisfaction by 5% from 2023 to 2026. As I sit here today, we've actually increased our score by 10%. Excellent. So I think that the ways we work, the way we come to work, the passion of our employees really says a lot. The dedication that this staff has to the mission and the creation of affordable housing and a place for people to call home, a safe place for people to call home, is really reflected in that score. I'm just so proud of our staff and everything that they have contributed to. I really think that, again, while it's their satisfaction, it's their values and, belongingness to each other and the culture that they've created that really is that reflection of that score. Also, earlier this month, CalHFA was named the 2024 Employer of the Year in the medium-sized state department category by the Association of California State Employees with Disabilities. The award recognizes state agencies that have shown strong commitment and made substantial progress in the employment of persons with disabilities. So we are also very proud of that award. There are 2 developments that were financed at the CalHFA's MIT program in the recent year that's also earned awards in the last month. Monarch, right here in Sacramento, won the Affordable Housing Pipeline Development of the Year from the Sacramento Housing Alliance. And then Kimball Highland, which was recently opened in National City, was recognized with the Ruby Award from the San Diego Housing Federation. I think Mr. Russell's team made a great choice with that award. Also, as we've been doing all of the awards in there, we've also been out in the public speaking, connecting with the different communities. I think you'll see in the next business plan, and the focus of CalHFA will really be that community connection. I think we do a great job in the relief programs, but learning from that, we also want to be connecting into the development space and understanding kind of where we sit and where we can be most impactful. So our Director of Multifamily Programs, Stephanie McFadden, has spoke on a panel at the California Council of Affordable Housing. Director Tam spoke at a groundbreaking for BUSD Workforce Housing in Berkeley. We're very excited about that one. Also, CalHFA hosted a second tribal listening session with myself and a few other the leadership team members in Paula, down in San Diego-ish area. That was a very eye-opening experience as well. That's our second tribal listening session, and connecting with the tribal communities and understanding their unique needs has been really a great experience for myself personally. And then tomorrow, very early, Director McFadden and I will be flying to Chicago for NCSHA's Credit Connect. My last item that I want to update you, and before we get into the agenda, is I want to take a time to, you're going to be hearing about our next business plan, and for that. So this business plan is the last annual business plan that's closing out our strategic plan. For the newer board members, we usually have a 3, maybe a 5-year, who knows, strategic plan that lets us kind of set those big long-term goals of the agency. So we did have a workshop in March of starting the strategic plan but we'll continue those through multiple engagements with the board. But what you're hearing today is the business plan that will close out that strategic plan. All of us in the room know the current financial and housing market dynamics. So what you're going to hear is a couple things. First, how those dynamics are affecting our revenues in a negative fashion, unfortunately, but also how we're making strides to work around that. And so you're going to see a lot of investment, not only from a technology, from a personnel perspective, and a contracting perspective on what we can do given the current market dynamics to increase our revenues and unit production, especially in our multifamily space. Our single family team has, if you look back for 3 years, of deployed product after product. So this year we really want to shore up the operations that are behind the scenes for single family, but we're really focusing on that multifamily space. And so I really truly believe you have to sometimes invest a little to get that revenue and that return. But we've also baked in a lot of accountability for this board to have with the staff on that investment. You're going to see 4 different pilots or proof of concepts in that multifamily arena for us to be able to develop and look at outside of LIHTC, with LIHTC, looking at middle income, looking at, doing this. We cannot continue to do the same things we're just doing. We need to branch out, and we need to be collaborative in the housing continuum as well. So you'll see that in this business plan, and I'm really excited about that opportunity. But yeah, so that was all of my updates. So I'll let us get back to our full agenda. Thank you, Chair Cervantes.
I think for the record, I could say fairly that you've been very busy.
A little bit.
And we really appreciate all your work in advancing the cause for housing in California and CalHFA.
Just a
Director
quick
Russell?
comment, if I may. Just for the record, be clear that we have an independent jury selecting the awardees. I had no hand in choosing the Ruby Award. However, the project, which has seniors, it has families, it has new builds, some rehab, and an amazing integration with the San Ysidro Health Center Clinic, a full-on community health center serving more than just the residents there. Those are reasons why the project got so much recognition. I just want to applaud CalHFA for being an investor in that.
Well, thank you. We know that you hold us to a very high standard, so we were very excited to see that that standard was met finally.
And Director Williams?
I just want to acknowledge and just reaffirm the great place to work. Overseeing a state agency, our department, our activities is a huge effort. And in an ever-changing workplace environment of what's expected and trying to manage expectations, teleworking versus everybody in the office and all of those things. So for you all to continue to get the award and recognition of a great place to work, that's an aspiration that I have for Fresno. And so you all are leading the way, but I'm watching close. Because my view is, if you're going to come to work, why shouldn't it be the best place to come? Who wants to work at the worst place to work? But many people admire the goal of having a place that they love, that supports them, and their passion and professional goals aligned with the mission of the agency. So I congratulate and celebrate not only you, but all the staff that have earned this recognition. And I understand people fill out the form, that's how you do it. But people have opinions, and they express their opinions. And they've given you the 2 thumbs up, so congratulations.
Thank you, Director Williams. And Director Williams said this much better than I can, I think, though, but you only accomplish great work when you've got great people, and that takes a great organization. Really, the work that Rebecca's done with staff to sort of like further the team that's getting stuff done is really critical. And I think you touched on this, and we'll talk about this more later, but with respect to the upcoming strategic plan. But, we're navigating very uncertain waters. And so being able to be proactive, creative, nimble as an organization in a turbulent world in finance right now is going to be really critical for us. So having the right people to sort of make things, offer products, if you will, that are going to resonate with the broader market out there, that make an impact for California, which is our mission, is really critical. So thank you, and really thank you, staff, for all the work that you're advancing here. And with that, I'd like to move to agenda item 4. Now, I do need to note, and I'm going to have to recuse myself on this item, my former employer is designated as the, Stiefel is designated as the underwriter for the tax-exempt bonds, I still have financial interest in the firm. So in talking to counsel, concluded that I'm better off recusing. So I will step away. I've asked Dr. White to step in to manage this item, and I'll listen in, but I won't be active in this item. So, Dr. White?
Good morning.
I don't think so.
How about now? Oh, yeah, that's better. Good morning. I'm Stephanie McFadden, Director of Multifamily Programs. It's great to see you all this morning. We have 2 deals that we're bringing to you this morning. And the first deal is Sutter Street. This is a very unique transaction. It's extremely complicated. I've asked Kevin Brown, the Housing Finance Officer who did the underwriting on this deal, to join me here today, the developers in the audience, if we have questions for him later. I'm going to try to give you the high level, and I'll look forward to your questions as we get into the details. Sutter Street is a new construction, mixed-income family development located in San Francisco. The developer is Martin McNerney Development Incorporated, who specializes in development in the city of San Francisco. While this is CalHFA's first experience with McNerney Development, the development team meets all of our requirements. The lead construction lender is Berkadia, and the tax credit investors are Boston Financial for the federal tax credits and Monarch Private Capital for the state tax credits. Sutter Street is an inclusionary housing master development project, all in one 22-story building that will include a total of 303 units, a parking garage, and some commercial space, including a childcare center. At construction closing, the master development parcels will be aerially subdivided into 2 condominiums that will be separately owned and financed. For this project, the per unit total development cost is $827,000, and the design includes many green features with a target of exceeding LEED Gold standards, hopefully getting to platinum. Condo number 1 will include a public parking garage, commercial space, a childcare center, and 201 market rate apartment units. Condo number 2 will include the 102 affordable units, and that is the subject of our financing. Although the market rate and affordable condos will be sharing the same building and all amenities, they are being viewed as separate transactions, each with their own ownership and financing stacks. There will be fee ownership by both condo owners, with the responsibilities and roles for each entity defined by CC&Rs that will be recorded against both condos. As I mentioned, Berkadia will be the senior lender during construction, providing financing for both transactions through HUD's 221D4 program, which is a new construction program for a HUD-insured loan offered through banks or mortgage companies like Berkadia. At permanent loan closing, CalHFA will take out Berkadia's financing on Condo 2, and the borrower will opt out of HUD's 221D4 financing in favor of CalHFA's HUD risk share loan, which will be secured against the fee interest in Condo 2. Does that make sense? Very complicated. Berkadia will remain as the permanent lender on Condo 1 with the HUD 221D4 financing. You may have noticed in the underwriting a land use fee. This is a $250,000 above the line operating expense for Condo 2. Condo 2 will pay that amount to the owner of Condo 1 every year for 40 years after closing.
This payment has been factored into the debt sizing for Condo 1 and will help support the overall construction and operations of the overall master development. This is a new type of ownership structure to CalHFA, and so we are requiring that a new land use fee reserve fund be created and held in the amount of one of those annual payments of $250,000. This is available to the agency if we feel that this fee is hurting the project's operating capabilities at any time. There are some benefits to this ownership and fee structure. The residents of Condo 2 are sharing in a market rate building and unrestricted access to its higher end amenities. And it is similar to a ground lease structure, but in that case, we would have, if it were a ground lease, CalHFA would be required to be on the fee interest of the land, which in this scenario where HUD is the lender for Condo 1, that would not be a possible structure. So comes out of the financing structure. If for some reason the land use fee payment is not made to Condo 1, the owner of Condo 1 has severely limited rights and would not have the right of sale, even in the event of a default. Today, we're requesting approval of a $15.3 million permanent loan and a $4 million MIP loan. And I want to address some important issues around fair housing. This is truly a mixed income project with both a market rate project and an affordable project occupying the same physical structure. This raised a lot of questions for us, and we did a lot of research and required a very significant amount of analysis by our partners. In this case, because HUD is insuring the construction loan prior to getting approval at the National Loan Committee level for this deal, HUD required that the Fair Housing Office approve this structure and approve how the units are allocated through the project. As I said, it's a 22-story project. Floors 15 through 22 are allocated as 100% market units, but through the floors from 2 to 14, specific units have been dispersed throughout every floor and identified as either affordable or market. And they will remain so through this condo structure. That specific allocation has been approved by HUD through their Fair Housing Office, as well as evidenced by their approval of the construction loan at National Loan Committee. The City and County of San Francisco have also approved this unit allocation from a fair housing standpoint. And our own legal team has done a very detailed analysis of both of those fair housing approvals, as well as we have an opinion from council stating that the fair housing analysis stands. So I know it's a big question, and it was for us in our underwriting, and we have reached a point through our work as an organization and with our partners, HUD and the City of San Francisco, where we recommend moving forward with this project. Any questions?
Questions? Maria?
Could you explain what exactly the land use fee? I mean, it's 10% of the gross income, so it's fairly it's very significant. So what's actually covered in that?
So it's based on, and you're going to have to help me, I'm sorry. It's based on the remainder of the land acquisition cost value, correct?
Right.
Right?
Right.
Here, Kevin knows the actual numbers in his head. Yeah.
So the affordable, I'm Kevin Brown, Housing Finance Officer with CalHFA. The land use fee and the land value are tied together. The land value is based on 30% of the overall everything. There's about 2/3 of that that's being capitalized up front and paid for mostly with the seller carryback loan. And then the remainder is being paid to the market rate project, Condo 1. That remaining third of the land value is what that is amortized over 40 years.
Okay, so this is,
So
could you break it down a little further? So so basically, condo 2 is carrying, like, at the front end is responsible for like the whole land purchase?
No,
This is for
no.
the allocable share of the land.
The 30%, yes.
So
So
does
for-
that mean that the condo 1 doesn't have a land acquisition cost
It
up
does,
front?
it does.
But it's less than, like, for condo 2?
So the total land value is about 30 million.
Okay,
The land value being attributed to condo 2 is about 10 million. So 7 million of that is being capitalized up front, and the rest of that is being paid into land use fee, 250,000 a year, amortized over 40 years with an interest cover on that. So the remaining 2/3 of that total land cost of the whole development is being paid for by condo 1.
okay.
Director Williams?
As I understand it, at the end of the day, when permanent financing kicks in, it's going to be for here and CalHFA. How does that work when you've got two lenders?
That's where the condo structure really works in our favor. So we are financing only condo 2, and we have fee interest in that, and HUD is financing only condo 1. And with the CC&Rs that are agreed to now, everyone is comfortable with that structure.
So condo 1 has all market rate units. And condo 2 has mixed.
Condo
Both
2 is-
market rate and affordable? Oh, well, that, you said from floors 2 to 14, it's a mix.
Right, but our project is 102 affordable restricted units. So 100% of our financed units are affordable. However, I'm going to make up something. On floor 8, unit 801, 805, 813 are designated as affordable units in the condo structure. All the other units are market rate and designated for condo 1. So that is all specified in the structure of the aerial condo. Does that make sense?
Yes. And how long did the HUD Fair Housing Review take? I'm glad to hear they still
Quite
have
some
a fair
time.
housing
It took
department.
quite some time. This was done over sort of like, I'm going to say November, December, January. It took quite some time.
Oh, okay.
It was a very detailed analysis, is our understanding. Yeah.
But that was prior to the new administration taking.
Most of it, I think the final approval came in February, but they were working on it for months in advance of that.
All right, thank you.
Director?
Thank you so much, Chair. I'm really excited about this coming from the Treasurer's Office, and I do know that it is a whole heck of a lot more complicated when it comes to the financing, but it lends itself to, from the Treasurer's perspective, an even better project. With the investment from the National AFL-CIO, looking at this project as actually helping workers come back down to that city core in San Francisco, as well as the strong support from the city and county. We see that as incredibly important. And of course, the Treasurer's Office and our fellow director here has also already been very supportive of this project. And when appropriate, Chair, would like to make a motion to approve.
Director?
Thank you. Hearing this project brings me some memories back when the Hudson Yards litigation was going on in New York City. Very serious fair housing concerns. So I'm gonna ask you again to explain the condo 2 distribution, because it sounded at the beginning of the presentation and from the materials that they were going to be separate and distinct. You were going to have I'm going to use the term tower. You were going to have like one market rate tower and then one
That's not
that was
correct.
going to be
No.
lower. So explained again the number of market rate units in condo 2 and the number of affordable housing units in the same condo 2.
It's one physical structure of 22 stories. Condo 1 has 201 market rate units, and condo 2 has 102 affordable units, so all restricted. The way that the units are designated is defined by the aerial condo structure, and there are some floors that are 100% market, and that is floors 15 to 22. In the lower floors, they're primarily, floors 8 through 14, specific units are designated now in the condo structure as to whether they are restricted affordable units or market units. And I believe that floors 2 through 7 are 100% affordable units. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Amenities. Let's talk about amenities. There was something in the presentation you were given about the higher end amenities. And I raised that point because in the project description, there's a sentence that says, while parking is available to all residents for an additional cost, there will be no designated parking for the affordable units. So I'm guessing that's an example of how there will be designated parking for the market rate units. So it sounds that way. So can you elaborate on amenities, including parking and other amenities, and the differentiation of use between the residents?
It's my understanding that there is no differentiation in access to the amenities. It's also my understanding that the city and county of San Francisco requires no parking for any of these units. The parking is being developed as public parking for a fee and is available to all residents for a fee. Do you have anything
I was
to clarify
referring to
on
the
that?
designated parking. Not that they won't have parking available at a cost, but there will be designated parking for market.
We might need the developer for that specific fine point. So Patrick, would you mind coming up?
It is important because it gets into the amenities question and the
Understood.
differentiation that was actually the underpinning of the Hudson Yards.
Hi, Patrick McNerney, Martin Building Company. Specifically related to parking. So the overall development is two structures. I know that it's been identified as one. The new construction is one building, and then there's an adjacent existing parking garage. It's a public parking garage. So that parking is open to the public. It's not part of the affordable condo at all. So it is actually designated as part of the market rate condo, but it's just open to the public. In the new structure, there will be 28 new parking spaces. And those new parking spaces are available to all residents. There are only 12% of those spaces are actually earmarked specifically for the affordable units in compliance with San Francisco's inclusionary housing requirements. So again, as Stephanie said, that none of this is required. So this is actually all surplus parking.
Okay.
Yeah.
That clarification, it's a little different than what is written here. So
It's difficult because we actually have, even in the public parking garage, we can potentially park valet and get a lot more spaces, but it's not related to this directly. Certainly not related to the CalHFA portion of the project.
okay, what other amenities would you say you can just explain on the project?
So I couldn't be prouder of this project. Just to be clear, that this is a tremendous example of really leveraging a program, a state program for 100 affordable units or 101 or 2 into 300 new housing units. And the 300 housing units wouldn't be possible without this program. Amazing. It's an amazing springboard. And so really just, you have to look at it as the opportunity for all 300 units. The project, and also I want to just clarify that this being our fourth project in downtown San Francisco, that we produced more than 20% of on-site, 20% or more on-site affordable, we actually see no distinction in tenant base. So an affordable unit is occupied by the same type of tenant that a market rate unit is. It just happens to be subsidized. But these are Class A buildings. People are very respectful of their spaces. The spaces we produce are hard to distinguish between an affordable unit and a market rate unit. So we just look at it as, okay, we have some tenants who have less income or need a greater subsidy, but they're all the same and they all get access to the exact same amenities. And the amenities are Class A, right? So a 2-story gym, a massive lobby with a screening area. There's rooftop, 2 rooftop spaces, outdoor rooftop spaces, including a hot tub. And there's a game room that's on the 22nd floor with a view. There's a co-working space dedicated for all tenants, right? And they can reserve conference rooms. There's a party room. Again, full access to everybody. There's just no distinction here. And we have an on-site childcare facility, which is not directly related to us. We have provided the space to Wu Yi Childcare Services, and they are a citywide childcare agency. But they have, most of their slots are actually for people, subsidized slots, childcare slots. So we'll have 38 or so, or 40, somewhere around there slots. So that's just another amenity, but it's available to all residents. So hopefully that answers your question.
No, it does. It does. And I think you speak for your experience when these cases have been brought to either private litigation or the Office of Administrative Hearing at HUD. Does the expert impact analysis have actually demonstrated the exact opposite? Even though the affirmative market plans have been approved, when you list up these units, it tends to be on the subsidized side a different structure based on, when you compare protected trades under Title VIII. So that's why I'm saying it's really important that HUD signs off. I feel, even though you said it is in the new administration that the final sign-off has been done, we can debate that at another time, but it's important that the analysis was reviewed, that was, on the CalHFA side, can you concur that the analysis was reviewed?
Yes, I can. Our legal team worked very hard to verify and validate the opinion that we received. We reviewed whatever we did get from HUD, but we know for certain that HUD National Loan Committee, who approved the construction loan for this whole project, would not have approved this deal without concurrence and approval from the Fair Housing Office. So it was very important to us to make sure that approval was in place. So as Patrick knows, we were very focused on it.
Okay, thanks.
I just want to say thank you. I knew you were going to ask the right questions based upon your history, so I appreciate that. I'm glad to hear it wasn't 2 doorways that we heard happening in New York, so that was the limit of my knowledge. But I heard a first, but I'd be happy to second based upon the conversation I just heard.
Did you have
Comments, but I'm happy to give Mr. Prince happy to give Mr. Prince the second. I do have questions or comments.
Okay.
So, no, first of all, I really appreciate what Director Velasquez is asking about. We had situations in San Diego exactly where they did their best to segregate these 2 buildings, make it a single project, and we pushed back, and so that did not happen. What I see happening here is a great deal of innovation. It seems like that the actual level of amenities is going to be higher for these families than they would be if we had done a 100% affordable building. I would be interested in revisiting this. I think this should move forward. I'd like to revisit it and see what the actual impact is. How does it populate? What are the characteristics? What can we learn from this? Because if it's good as it sounds, it's something we have to figure out how to replicate. As complex as it is, the complex stuff is what we
Yes.
have to be doing now.
Right.
I mean, the other qualities there, I think that having childcare there is an incredible additional amenity. Really, I just wanted to, so many other comments were made that I would have otherwise, but I will just thank you for your efforts to be the developer and the staff, being so willing to dive into something so challenging, because it could be a model for what we do in the future. And our cities are going to look different. Our housing is going to look different than these standalone TCAC, light tech towers. And this
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
there's nothing, but there isn't enough light tech and there isn't enough TCAC. There is
Yeah,
nowhere near
no.
enough resources. We have to find multiple ways to do this. And so thank you for those efforts and for taking the time to explain what was incredibly complex, I think, bringing it to clarity. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I just want to highlight one other thing. In my experience, co-locating childcare with affordable and market rate housing is extraordinarily difficult to do. And it takes a lot of forward planning and partnerships with places like Wu Yi to actually get that done. And I'm super excited to be part of a project that has that.
Just a coda on what I said is just to that very point, I'm really intrigued to see how that physically works out. That's a challenge we're having in San Diego right now is how do we actually overcome these regulatory barriers
Right.
to make it
It's hard.
function?
It's really
Thank
hard.
you.
Yeah.
Secretary Morris. Yeah.
I just wanted to quickly put my voice into the praise of this project. I think it is incredibly exciting for CalHFA to be partnering in this way. Mixed income is the standard, and we look forward to opportunities where we can really integrate our lower income families into market rate housing. Is there going to be a preference in the childcare for folks in the building, or is it through the Wu Yi process and just their typical?
Yes, so that was part of our negotiation because we're providing the space for free, and there's not a mandate, right? The city didn't require that we do this. We feel it's a great use of ground floor space these days with retail not being so popular, but also a great building amenity. So in their lease agreement, it's either 6 or 10 slots that our tenants have first priority. And in addition, although they're a fully subsidized childcare facility, citywide, they have agreed to allow full pay children in their program at our site too. So we can get not just affordable tenants, but we can get market rate tenants there as well. So we look at it as a great building amenity.
That's great. I also appreciate your description of all residents being equal. I think that is the spirit of this project. We also know that a lot of our families who are experiencing housing insecurity or vulnerability may have challenges that their market rate counterparts or folks who are much more stable may not. And so I am curious about your property management plan and how you think about that, because sometimes, and we know, having worked in San Francisco, where there are other projects where folks may just need a little bit more support as they stabilize. Just curious how you're thinking about the property management.
There's, because of the condo structure, it's an overall property management, but then we have 2 dedicated staff just for compliance issues with affordable housing. And just to be clear, when I say that everybody is the same, they literally are the same. They're just different income levels. Yeah. And what we find is because these projects that we've created are such, and there's got such great amenities, and they're so well maintained, people just want to make sure that they comply, right? That they keep up with their rent, or they find ways to make sure that they're not violating rules and regulations or abusing the space, right? It seems like there's a higher level of care than what we would see on some other, maybe just strictly affordable housing projects and without amenities. So I just think it's a tremendous mix. And there is, we are family friendly, extremely family friendly. We think that's actually going to, create a higher level of management responsibility with all the kids that we hope to have. The project has a lot of 2, 3, and 4 bedroom units, including the affordable units. 85 of our affordable units, 85 of the 101 or 102 are 2, 3, and 4 bedroom units.
Oh, great. Yeah. Just one last appreciation through the chair. I really appreciate that this is an inclusionary project. So often we see the fees paid and projects going up in isolation. So just an appreciation for committing to integrating these communities. Thank you.
Any other questions? So I know there's a motion to approve and there's a second. Do we need to go to public comment?
Yes. If any members of the public would like to make a comment, please raise your hand or come forward. There's none at this time.
Thank you. So, motion to approve. Second, Dr. Prince. Courtney, could you call the roll?
Yes, Ms. Cabildo?
Yes.
Secretary Moss?
Aye, and also aye.
Mr. Hardeman? Mr. Henning? Mr. Prince?
Yes.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Director Velasquez? Dr. White?
Yes.
And Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Resolution 2517 is approved.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Hey,
All right.
Stephanie, we're gonna let the chair come back
that's-
in.
That sounds great.
Well, I'd like to thank Dr. White for filling in and make a note that we do play by the rules here. So I'm glad that Dr. White could help me out here. We'll move on to the next agenda item, please. Stephanie, can you take that?
Yes, hello again. The next project that we have here for your approval is called Monterey Family Apartments. Monterey Family Apartments is a new construction, large family, mixed income development located in Gilroy, Santa Clara County, that will be comprised of 94 units in 4 3-story walk-up residential buildings. 93 of the units will have rents restricted between 30% and 70% of area median income for Santa Clara County. The remaining unit will be reserved as an unrestricted manager's units. There will be 112 parking spaces, and the total development cost per unit is $692,000. The site currently consists of 3 parcels that will be merged into one at or prior to construction loan closing. The site is improved with 3 vacant commercial buildings and 1 vacant residential structure that will be demolished during construction. A fire occurred on site at 6630 Monterey Road in Gilroy around October 26th, 2024. The fire damaged an existing structure and led to the release of hazardous substances into the soil. A soil management plan has been prepared for the project. Impacted soil of approximately 86 cubic yards will be hauled off and disposed off-site as appropriate. The supplemental Phase 2 reported that the soil gas concentrations do not pose a risk to future tenants, but the budget includes $303,000 for a vapor intrusion mitigation system if required by the Central Coast Regional Water Quality Control Board. A portion of the subject is located in flood zone AH, which are areas with a 1% annual chance of shallow flooding. The project's base floor elevation will be built 24 inches above the flood zone. Flood insurance will be required until a final letter of map amendment post-construction is obtained. The developer is Rome West Incorporated, an affiliate of Rome Development Corporation, who is familiar to CalHFA. The developer requirement is met by Pacific Housing, Inc., the managing general partner of the borrower. The construction lender is Citibank, and the tax credit investor is Aegon Realty Advisors, which will be purchasing both the federal and the state tax credits. The development has been allocated $32.7 million in bonds and expects to use $4 million in recycled bonds as well. This project also includes energy efficiency and green design features. Any questions?
Thank you. I'd like to turn to the board if there are any questions or comments on this project. Director Russell?
A quibbling point, which is I saw that you had to eliminate one of the bedrooms in order to provide adequate space for the post office boxes. And that's the sort of thing that gets me, is when these requirements, actually, we lose housing for something as mundane as that. And I know it's not your thing, it's the post office, but
Right.
I don't want the post office to get by on this without being called out in public.
Noted. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I did note the fire and the mitigation related to that.
Yes.
And also the floodplain issue. So
Yes.
it's like in the 100-year floodplain, you build 2 feet above whatever that threshold is what they're doing here, I take it, right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay. And does the proponent believe that they can actually get a letter of map revision for this project once that work is done?
I think so, yeah. That's
Okay.
what we're waiting for, to get that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's helpful. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
I don't see any other questions, comments from the boards. Courtney, can you open this up for any public comment?
If any members of the public wish to make a comment, please raise your hands or come forward. There's none at this time.
Thank you very much. So unless there are any,
Oh, no, just move approval.
well, thank you.
I saw where you're headed.
I was. Thank you very much, Director. Is that Director Hennessy second? Thank you. We have a motion made in second. Courtney, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Cabildo,
Yes.
Chair Cervantes,
Aye.
Secretary Moss,
Aye.
Mr. Hardeman, Mr. Henning, Mr. Prince, Mr. Russell,
Aye.
Director Velasquez, Dr. White,
Yes.
and Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Resolution 25-18 is approved.
Great. Thank you very much. And
Thank you all.
So we'll move to agenda item 6. Kelly Mattson will make a presentation with Erwin Tam on the update on the business plan.
Thank you, Chair Cervantes. As the chair said, this item provides the board with an update on the progress of our strategic measures through the end of Q3 of fiscal year 24-25. It also provides an update on our single-family and multifamily production as of the end of Q3, high-level budget update, and a few notable items that occurred during that quarter. Next slide. Great. So in general, our strategic measures around Goal 1, lending impact, are on target, with one exception that's been discussed previously with this board, and that's in reference to the unit count for our multifamily production. Go to the next slide, please. At the close of Q3, our current projections show that we'll be producing just over 4,700 units within this fiscal year, which is approximately 80 units below our desired outcome. This is due to market conditions, equity investor delays, local public entity delays, and other external factors that have caused a few of our MIP projects to delay their closing into the next fiscal year. So while our units are still being produced, they won't be completed in time to be counted for this fiscal year, which is why we've been discussing this exception from time to time at previous board meetings. Next slide. The strategic measures for our second goal around financial sustainability are all in good progress. If you'll move to the next slide, you'll see that that's also the case for the strategic measures around Goal 3, which is around being a trusted advisor. And to close it out, again, strategic measures for Goal 4 around our operational excellence are all on track. Next slide. So overall, when we're looking at our strategic objectives, we've got 83%, which represents 10 objectives on target, 1 at risk, and 1 off target. Both the at risk and off target objective we discussed at the last board meeting as well, but just to recap, if you'll move to the next slide, the at risk exception for our strategic objectives around lending impact. This refers to a market study that we're conducting alongside the Turner Center to identify the key characteristics of the first-time home buyer market in California. The study is well underway. We've received wonderful updates from the Turner Center and a preview of the report. They're in progress of compiling that report right now, but it's projected to be delivered to us after the close of this fiscal year in the early parts of July. So for the sake of transparency, we wanted to let the board know that we're just slightly off target in getting that report delivered to us in the timeframe we had originally aspired for. The at-risk objective that we are reporting on is actually a canceled initiative, and again, we covered this at the last board meeting, but this was around proposed mortgage professionals e-newsletter. When we consulted with our stakeholders in the lending community, they actually communicated to us that this initiative was unwanted and they didn't feel like it would improve communication between our entities, and so as a result of that feedback, we actually canceled the initiative, and that's why it's showing up as at risk. We'll go to the next slide.
Want to do CalHFA first?
Sure. So notable highlights from the end of Q3, or by the end of Q3, which was March, is that the Board of Directors here approved resolutions in February and March that paved the way for CalHFA to stand up Governor Newsom's proposed initiative using $105 million in existing national mortgage settlement funds to assist homeowners whose homes were destroyed or left uninhabitable by recent disasters. Chief Deputy Rebecca Franklin gave a preview of that progress to date, but again, at the end of Q3, we were just in approval mode and beginning to do the work of standing up that program. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Tam for the other notable highlights.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Cervantes and members of the board. Erwin Tam, Director of Financing, here with you for this presentation and the next 3 presentations thereafter. So feel free to save up questions or ask them as they come in whenever they come. I'm more than happy to answer them as I go along. So another highlight is our RFI that we issued. We have received responses and are formulating sort of our approach. We think there is a viable plan to move forward, and we'll be presenting that to the board as an informational item at an upcoming meeting. And also the My Access program, which again, we had launched now 2 bond financings to fund. There will be additional highlights provided in the capital markets section in the agenda item 9 later on today to discuss again the My Access program. I'm going to skip ahead to the Q3 results. Instead of having graphics, as you know, my inclination is always to have a spreadsheet. So if we go to page 12, there is a big table of numbers. So we've outperformed our budget. There we are. We've outperformed our budget on the revenue side, mainly driven by additional single-family revenues, in part because of the resilience of the agency's My Home program. And we also received additional revenues from outperformance in the TBA market in this fiscal year. Multifamily lending revenues are tracking just slightly north of budget, and overall operating expenditures on a whole in each of the existing line items are below budget, which has resulted in a positive variance overall for this third quarter and the end of this fiscal year. More than happy to answer any questions. I know we will talk more about the projections for next fiscal year and the operating budget coming up to agenda items from now.
Thank you both very much. Are there any questions or comments from the board on this report out? I don't think I see any hands. I've got one. So Kelly, with respect to the Turner Center report, is that so that they're working on it, it's a little delayed. Is that something we might see in July? Or what's your sense of timing on that?
Yeah, we anticipate that we'll receive the full report in early July. The analysis has been completed, and we received a presentation detailing some of the high-level findings, and they're compiling that into a report style as we speak.
Okay.
I think Chair Cervantes' staff will receive the report in July, so I think a better expectation is that we may be able to present to the board information in like the September, October timeframe.
Got it. So let staff digest it.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get it in July. I don't know if we'll have an August meeting, but we can certainly turn it around as an informational item. Yeah, I just want to make sure the expectation may not come in July, but yes, we can send it out.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you very, very much. And I have to say that with respect to that other e-newsletter item, sometimes things sound great in concept, but, you've researched the market or the audience and found it wasn't helpful, and I'm glad we dropped it. Because there's no point in my mind of doing something where it's just not going to provide value for people we're trying to work with. So thank you for having the wisdom and the foresight to cut something that wasn't going to meet the challenge.
Yeah,
Just-
thank you, Chair Cervantes.
Mike.
And on that note, we can have a conversation as well in terms of what the board finds most helpful. All three of these exceptions that I covered today, we covered during the second quarter update. So if it's the board's preference that after we've already covered something, maybe we don't spend time on that in future board meetings, we can do that. Or, similarly with your comment on this initiative that we've rescinded, is it helpful to the board to continue to show that as an at-risk initiative? Or if we've proactively decided based on feedback we're going to cancel something, do we want to display it as an at-risk item at all, or just remove it? So, as we get into conversations, detailing our development of the next strategic plan, we can cover items like this as well and determine what's most helpful and most useful to you in terms of passing information.
Right, that might be a good conversation. Thank you. Director Russell?
I'll yield to the secretary.
Secretary Moss?
Thank you. Kelly, maybe this is for you. You talked a little bit about the delays and so why we were a bit behind. I'm wondering if we know how many units might have been represented in the delays that you spoke about.
I might need to turn to Stephanie. She has some of the numbers more firmly implanted in her head. I do know it represented, I think, around 4 MIP projects potentially being delayed. We'll see.
As you will note, I am not carrying a spreadsheet. So I do not have the specific numbers in my head, but yes, we have, I think, 2 to 4 MIP projects that have been delayed. We anticipate they will close in July, hopefully not August, but that could happen also. This is an industry-wide phenomenon that we are hearing about at CIDLAC and just out in the industry where projects are challenged to find a tax credit investor at the price that they had in their budget. So that becomes a really difficult, it has an impact to the economics of the project if the equity it comes in at a lower dollar amount. So we believe all of these projects are going to move forward. It just might not be by June 30. I believe it's around 400 units, but please don't quote me. I can get back to you on that for sure.
No, that was really the sort of twofer of my question of, is
Yeah.
this an industry-wide
Yeah,
thing you're
yeah.
seeing? And is it cyclical? Like, are
I mean,
these
in
conditions
times
worse
of
than most?
uncertainty, tax credit investors tend to retrench. They are kind of waiting to see what is happening before they price equity that they won't deliver for 3 years, for example, right? So it is cyclical, and it does happen more in times of economic uncertainty, which I think we can all agree that we're in one of those. So, yeah.
Thank you, Secretary Moss. Director Russell?
Actually, my question will be better suited under item number 7.
Okay. Other questions, comments from the board? I think I might just make an observation, and I may be getting ahead of myself because we'll be getting into a new strategic plan in the months ahead. And I guess in my mind, I'm thinking you always want to meet your target, but sometimes if you set a more ambitious goal, you may not get there, or rather you might achieve more by swinging for the fences, but it might be more yellow on the screen than green. And I'm thinking more in terms of the next cycle, not this one. And I got to say, I don't think that troubles me, just to put it out there, wherein I'd rather see us be ambitious and really strive for something. And if we don't get there, at least we set, we're following a North Star in terms of trying to provide more housing in the state and maybe do more than we would have otherwise. I mean, just an editorial comment. And I know we'll really dig into this when we get into the strategic plan. But You know, in this case, it's like, I appreciate the Secretary's question because it sounds like, yeah, we're going to get there in this one. It just maybe we're a month off target, but hey, it's getting done. To me, the big discussion is going to be what are we targeting in the next strategic cycle coming up, and you know how much do we want to try to push the envelope? Is the question I've got. I'm going to look around and see if there's any other comments, questions from the board. I don't see any. Courtney, can you see if there's any public comment on this item?
If any members of the public would like to make a comment, please raise your hand or come forward. There's none at this time.
Thank you very much. And with that, we'll move on to our next item, which is item 7, the business plan for the upcoming fiscal year, which is the last year of the cycle of the strategic plan we've been in. And we have Rebecca Franklin joining the discussion.
Thank you. So our review of the fiscal year 25-26 business plan will start with a recap of our March board workshop, grounding us all in the strategic lens through which this plan was created. We'll also review the methodology and framework underpinning the plan. And finally, we'll review the proposed initiatives within this coming year's fiscal plan. Great. So in terms of recapping our board workshop that we held in March, some of the things that we really dove into was a robust discussion around our drivers and levers. Drivers representing, what really affects our business, levers representing, what things can we really adjust. We also dove into a discussion around our capabilities, and what capabilities do we need in order to offset drivers and increase our levers. Together, we brainstormed this list of 9 capabilities and considered to develop these capabilities, what must be true for CalHFA. And that led us down a path around thinking differently and really asking some of the big questions. And in terms of thinking differently, just representing a more strategic shift from, identifying initiatives that we can undertake on an annual basis to really asking big picture questions around developing these capabilities so that we can deliver on our vision and mission. These questions represent things like who are we and what do people need? What problem do we uniquely solve? Where do we fit within the housing ecosystem? And how do we build the capabilities that we need? So throughout the plan, you'll find references to some of these capabilities as it relates to the initiatives that we'll be undertaking ideally over the next fiscal year. Next slide. So the way that we approach business planning starts with our vision and mission and a central question: how and where can we strategically focus to help us make our vision and mission a reality? Alongside executive leadership, division directors, and our board, we considered what have we accomplished to date under this 3-year strategic plan, and where should we focus our efforts to finish strong? Finally, the plan's developed in conjunction with our budget team, considering what's feasible and where it makes sense to invest strategically in the growth of our business. Next slide. Again, so our vision here guiding the development of this entire plan is really all Californians living in homes that they can afford. And our mission is around investing in diverse communities with financing programs that help more Californians have a place to call home. Now, for a quick reminder or overview or refresh on the framework that underpins our strategic and business plan. Right now, our 3-year strategic plan sets strategic goals, objectives, and measures that we track over the course of 3 years. These are high-level statements of direction. They're aspirational, and they remain constant until our strategy changes. This year, we're reviewing our 1-year business plan. That focuses at the initiative level of the overall plan, and they describe the things that we'll be doing to achieve our goals and objectives. These actions are smaller, usually self-contained units of activity, and they may be broken down into the actions needed to complete it and ultimately stair-step us up into achieving our objective, our goals, and our strategic measures. I almost want to turn it over to you for this one because you do such a good job with our Lemon Bar Challenge queen here, just making this framework real for people.
I was gonna make cookies and then I have a 7 a.m. flight tomorrow, so sorry you guys missed out. But So if we think about the strategic plan, and if my goal is to be the CalHFA Top Chef, that's not going to be something that I can obtain in a short period of time. So I'm going to have to break down kind of the different elements that I need to grow as a culinary expert in order to obtain this title. So if we look at it from a chef perspective, I can't be considered a chef if I only make one sort of dish, if I only make desserts. If I do cocktails, it might help my other things, but so you have to drive for excellence in all aspects of a meal, from the beverages to the appetizers to entrees, etc. So those would be objectives. And so if my goal is to be a chef, each objective would be a different course of the meal that I would need to be. And then under that is different things that I need to be able to focus on. So an entree isn't just, a side of vegetables, it's different meats, etc. So there's different objectives there's different initiatives under each objective. So what we did a few years ago, obviously, was my goal, my objective in this example of being the top chef. I really wanted to focus on dessert making, because I'm the type of person that reads recipes once and then try to go from memories, which apparently you can't really do with desserts, or there's only one answer, which I should have been a lawyer because I don't like that. But so if I was a top chef and I focused on dessert making, I need to look at my benchmark myself. So we did a lemon bar challenge. So again, my high level goal was to be a chef. I need one of my objectives, of many objectives, would be the different courses of the meal. And then I would be doing different initiatives to grow myself in those different objective areas. And those initiatives changed annually, highlighting that we want to be agile and flexible in the marketplace. So setting goals and objectives that are 3 years or 5 years in the future is essential for us to be able to kind of set long-term visioning and set things in place, but also understanding that year over year, we're going to be able to pivot and move and grow as information comes available. So sorry for the lack of sweets today, but your blood sugar thanks me.
And I do want to say for 2 new board members that we actually did have lemon bars at a board meeting to illustrate the strategic planning process. And I'm looking forward to a recap at some point. So thank you.
I must have missed that one because I don't remember the lemon.
They were good.
Great. So closing out for this 3-year cycle, we'll be focusing on delivering thoughtful and meaningful products well. And over the course of the next year, the board's voice will be strongly incorporated as we consider our strategy for the next 3 to 5 years. So on to the next slide, please. Great. So looking at our first goal, which is lending impact, this is about focusing our lending activities on broadening access to affordable housing opportunities for California's diverse population. This year, our efforts to ensure our outreach has broad access across demographics builds upon initiatives started in this year's 24-25 business plan. We'll be using insights from our Underserved Communities Outreach Advisory Committee and our Tribal Outreach Campaign to develop prioritized lists of initiatives that will aim to provide educational resources with individuals preparing for home ownership, connect with mortgage-ready home buyers, and highlight resources that are available. This work really showcases some of the ways in which we're flexing our collaborative capability, I'd like to say, and also our strategic capabilities as well. I did not. Thank you. New for this year's business plan that you might have noticed are some asterisks that denote alignment with the California Interagency Council on Homelessness Action Plan. We felt that it was really important to showcase all the ways in which we're working collaboratively with our partners and other agencies and entities throughout government and really contribute to the housing ecosystem as a whole. Are there any questions?
Questions from the board? Yes, Director Russell?
This is the question I saved from last time. So it has to do with the extent to which we've looked at housing production. Is there a role, a niche for us on the production side when we talk about single family, not loan production, but actual housing production? And I speak specifically to some initiatives that are going on in San Diego right now. The Mayor, Todd Gloria, is pushing forward some really innovative work around row homes, townhomes, small-scale development that might just need a small assist to be available to like middle income. It's not a huge gap. because when we look at these down payment assistance programs, they're valuable. They are absolutely critical to the people who receive them, but they're not actually increasing the number of people total that are able to own homes, unless we're buying things out of the rental stock, right, which is not happening. So the production side is something very important, and I'm hoping we can give consideration over the years, looking at some of these other innovative programs and maybe find ways, see if there's a place for us there.
Yeah, absolutely. Your point's well taken, Director Russell. As a part of this year's, the current year's business plan, we did conduct an analysis on the supply side. The next slide that we'll get to actually covers where we're going to be taking that research in addition to the single-family first-time homebuyer market study research and also analysis conducted around ADUs to, again, help us develop a prioritized list based on resources available of potential new programs that we could consider in those areas.
I will say also, I think that's a really good item to bring up in the strategic planning sessions we'll be conducting throughout the year. I think supply is a huge topic and issue for the state of California. CalHFA is trying to do research to see where we can contribute most effectively, and I think that would be an awesome strategic goal maybe that we put on the next strategic plan. But for the business plan this year, we're still trying to collect the information to kind of, I guess, create the launch pad, as we would say.
No, I appreciate that, and in particular, I'm intrigued because we have upzoned large areas of the city where the land values won't support smaller scale development, townhomes and row homes. But there's large swaths of the city where that's possible. And so ADU's hot button issue down in San Diego right now, if people are watching the news. But I think that we really do need to be mindful. I appreciate the thoughtfulness here, that we have to create new housing that people can buy, and it's going to be some form of multifamily, because areas like San Diego, at least, don't have the advantage of being surrounded by agricultural fields like Sacramento does. We have hit our limits, and I think we're a harbinger of the rest of the state in that way.
Okay. Director Hennessy?
I appreciate that, and I actually look forward to the governor's proposal on reorganizing our housing entities into one that hopefully will contemplate those types of things and be able to bring about those types of results. But that was another thing I wanted to ask a question about. I wanted to make sure as we're approving this business plan moving forward, as the governor's moving forward with his reorganization plan, hopefully that's been contemplated in this plan and runs congruent with it.
Yeah, and I think we'll have an opportunity to talk about that as we move through the presentation, but alignment with our sister agencies is definitely something we've considered, particularly as it relates to specific initiatives that we're proposing to undertake over the next fiscal year.
Sorry, it will also come out in the operating budget and some of the things that we're choosing to invest in. From a technology standpoint, obviously, that we hear it loud and clear through AB 2006, AB 519, in which we're collaborative with our partners at HCD as well as our partners at TCAC and CIDLAC, understanding that we're all going to need to be talking to one another, not only as people, but in our systems, in our data, and our, how we're funding, how we're processing applications, et cetera. So I think you'll also see us being prepared to again, building that launch pad from a collaborative space, staffing the opportunity to help support the new committee that's being established through the reorg, et cetera.
Other comments? I just want to make a note myself. I really appreciate the effort to the tribal outreach campaign, the outreach to other communities in the state. I'm wondering, is there a thought as to how do we integrate that into the work going forward? I mean, I love the fact that there's outreach and we're listening. And I guess I'm wondering, is there a thought as to how we integrate that into what we're looking to do going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly the spirit with which one of our proposed initiative seeks to get at, in terms of incorporating the feedback from those listening sessions and also reviewing, what resources might be available to meet some of these needs and being able to highlight those for those communities.
Thank you. Any other questions? In which case, please move on.
Great, so continuing on with our first goal around lending impact, as we consider our objective to expand single-family program opportunities, our focus is on ensuring that we're effectively implementing and maintaining the new programs we've recently launched this fiscal year, including My Access, while also evaluating the resources available to support additional new programs in future years based on recently completed research on supply, ADU financing, and the single-family market. Next slide. In terms of our single-family production goals for next fiscal year, this coming fiscal year, our unit production goal is 4,000 units, and Erwin will talk more about that and how it impacts our operating budget at this time.
You'll see in the board memo for the next agenda item, sort of the overall fee income derived from this. And so on this slide is just a portion of the overall single-family revenues, and the same thing will be applicable to multifamily. So the numbers are sort of slice and dice a slightly different way compared to our strategic plan and then our operating budget. But they're all encompassed in there, the same 4,000 units that we're projecting for the My Home program are reflected in terms of the overall revenue numbers for the next fiscal year. Overall revenues on a year-over-year basis for single-family programs is projected to be down, mainly because we have financed most, if not all, of the Dream for All loans that have from this fiscal year. And so, again, we can talk more about that now or in the next presentation regarding the agency's operating budget.
I think we'll just move on then.
All right, continuing on with our lending impact goal, building our multifamily portfolio is a central focus of this year's business plan, leaning into our capability to be innovative, flexible, and specialized in finance. We'll be exploring new product offerings through proof of concepts and lending alternatives that expand beyond the mixed income program. And strategically, we need to be focused here from a revenue generation perspective to ensure the agency's long-term success. Okay, next slide. Overall, our multifamily production goals for fiscal year 25-26 include just over 4,700 units. That also impacts our operating budget, as Erwin mentioned, with the single family, but we'll table the rest of that deeper dive conversation until we get into the operating budget. Now that I've wrapped up the initiatives under Goal 1, are there any additional questions about any of the individual initiatives?
I have.
Yeah, Director Williams.
As you look at developing your projections based on this slide here, what are the contributing factors to arrive at the 4,700 units? Is that, for the most part, projects that are already in the pipeline that have submitted applications that we know exist, and the goal is to get them across the finish line?
I think you hit the nail on the head there. That is correct. A lot of our multifamily pipeline has a lot of visibility going forward. As you can see, even in the third quarter operating results, you think about the variance on the multifamily program versus the single-family program. There's a lot of visibility, because the MIP cycle starts in the calendar year. It's a calendar year basis, so we have an idea of what is going to be funded and awarded, and then the SIDLAC sort of timeline thereafter. So there's a lot of visibility baked into these projections for the multifamily side. The same is not true for the single-family program. Essentially, we set rates on a daily basis, and through the agency's lending network, our customers either take whatever rates are available or they do not. And so there's a sort of a daily basis, decision being made there. There's a very limited visibility. Hence why I think I referred to earlier, when we talk about our single-family projections, they're a lot, they tend to be a lot more volatile. There's a lot of uncertainty. And again, I think I'll talk about it a little bit in our capital markets presentation at the end of this meeting. There's an incredible amount of uncertainty given sort of the capital markets dynamics in the current economy.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to highlight again that this is the commitment that we're seeking and the accountability factor when we're talking about our operational budget and the investments that we're making is really into this space. In one of the board member briefings, there was a question about accountability. And so really in these initiatives, we need to drive revenue and unit production in the multifamily space for our long-term sustainability and financial sustainability right now. So just wanting to highlight the importance of this objective and these initiatives for the board that we will be actively wanting to manage and having the board, the accountability factors built in there. And so, we need to branch out of the LIHTC space and really see where we can go and grow our book of business that way. So just highlighting that for the board.
Great, moving on to our second goal, which is around financial sustainability. This goal guides us to leverage opportunities and create innovative products that ensure CalHFA's financial sustainability and continued ability to serve the affordable housing market. During the planning cycle for fiscal year 24-25 business plan, this current fiscal year's business plan, the board enthusiastically encouraged us to explore expanded partnerships with local governments and public education to explore the development of a multifamily new construction program. A request for information, or RFI, was issued earlier this year, and over the course of next year, we plan to evaluate these opportunities to partner with public agencies to support the development and operation of affordable multifamily housing. Next slide. To further support our goal of financial sustainability, we'll work to continue to grow the agency's balance sheet, preserve liquidity, and fund operating and financial risk reserves. Leaning into our capabilities around collaboration, influence, and finance, we'll continue to work with partners to identify alternative funding sources and implement new financing structures. Next slide. Finally, a critical part of maintaining financial sustainability includes achieving a high rating from credit rating agencies. In recent years, we've achieved the highest rating in the agency's history, and we look forward to maintaining this over the coming year. Right. Are there any questions around our proposed initiatives or work in support of Goal 2 financial sustainability?
Just a statement, I'm very curious to see what kinds of alternative financing comes up. I mean, we're all, when I hear non-LIHTC, I think that's great because we need to expand our pool. Our expectations, at least my expectations, keep rising as we talk about these things, so.
We like to see the enthusiasm and excitement around it, especially as we head into strategic planning for the next year.
I don't want to steal the thunder for Director Tam, but I think there might be an opportunity for him to share how we did, we accomplished the creating something out of nothing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to leave it for item 9, but we actually, yeah.
I thought you were asking me for my recipes.
No, we already know I'm the better chef, for sure.
So now you have us on tenterhooks. I don't think anyone's leaving early. I have a question or a thought that part of this was growing our total assets by 5%, and which just seems kind of modest to me. And I think I had just started on this board when we inked the strategic plan. Now we're seeing sort of the end of the cycle, so to speak. But it just seems like that doesn't seem like a big lift to me, per se. And again, I'm kind of steering this towards like this next cycle we're in, which is, again, should we be swinging for the fences more? Because this seems like it's a single or a double, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I'm mixing my baseball metaphors now. But just a thought on that. I mean, I don't want to take us off-road too much, but again, it's like 5% seems like, okay, that's nice, but nothing that's earth-shattering here to me.
And just to respond to that point, that is correct in terms of the agency's sort of overall assets. We did change the way we invest. I'm going to steal my own thunder for the last presentation. This board adopted new investment and debt management policies, which allowed us to actually raise essentially our earnings on existing assets. So yeah, we achieved it, and we achieved it relatively early in this 3-year cycle. And to that extent, you're right. We could think about ways to sort of stretch that in conjunction with the actual lending activities, right? finance is supporting of our, is the support for our two production divisions.
Thank you.
Yeah, and
And
thank
I
you,
have,
Chair. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Director Williams.
I'm glad to see you continuing to work with the Federal Home Loan Bank of San Francisco to implement new financing structures. How has that gone? I know that they have several funding structures that support multifamily and single-family home ownership, but how has that gone with our organization and our efforts?
Right. So on the multifamily side, we are kind of both. We do have an outstanding line of credit with the Federal Home Loan Bank, which we use to warehouse multifamily production and single-family sort of production as well, in anticipation of bond issuances. In terms of our bond execution, in our most recent bond issuance, Federal Home Loan Bank did buy two maturities, or actually, I think a single maturity, which we combined for the the $80 million single-family bond issuance. I guess we stole my own thunder again from the last presentation, but so they're coming in, and also we've had further conversations because, in my opinion, we can continue to drive their conversation further and, potentially even share risk or try to figure out new ways to execute new housing production. I think by looking through other HFAs may look to partner with Federal Home Loan Bank at sort of a limited basis, especially on their sort of earned income towards affordable housing. But you think about the expenditure of net income, that pool is actually very limited. And so what we're trying to do is figure out ways to actually partner with the Federal Home Loan Bank on a finance basis and not just sort of a subsidy basis. And I think that will go a lot further if we can partner together in that way.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, sorry, it's been, I don't know how to articulate this, but Director Russell raised this, exploring the alternative funding. I think it's totally the right place that we need to be spending a lot of energy collectively. Even the current reconciliation that's happening at the federal level that's going to increase the allocation of tax credits is not going to meet the housing needs that we have in our community. And so I'm just kind of curious if you've had conversations with people like CalPERS and CalSTRS to think about how, pension funds are like the number one driver of international housing development. And so I'm just kind of curious about that. I know that a number of the unions are out there trying to figure out how they can create a housing fund that'll be an alternative to tax credits. So yeah, what are the accelerator funds, for lack of a better word, that you've been exploring and thinking about that could be not augmenting tax credits, but in place of tax credits?
I would say that we're working, I think that's a great idea, and thank you for the suggestion. I think in the past we have been collaborative with CalSTRS, if my memory serves me right, but certainly call to Marcy and Cassandra, and having been a former employee there, we should be able to connect with them. I think we're also looking at the ways that the different projects are funded and where like localities and the schools and whatnot kind of can contribute to producing housing and helping finance, not maybe in also like non-financial, but in other ways to create the opportunity to build more affordable housing. Do you want to elaborate anything else? Okay. One mic.
I know. Sure. Even in today's meeting, the proposed MIP projects, there are obviously a bunch of names in there that we are more than willing to have conversations with or have had conversations with to sort of provide additional partnership opportunities with the agency. When we also think about partnerships, we also want to think about just non-subsidy sources, just like I referred to when working with Federal Home Loan Bank. A lot of partners aren't able just to come up with just subsidy dollars. What we want to do is sort of pair different avenues of financing together with available subsidies to make our sort of kind of stretch what we're providing to the affordable housing market. I don't know if that made sense, but that's sort of the overall goal, because very few entities are able just to produce subsidy independently.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about subsidies, though I totally get it that that's really important. There was a partnership that CalHFA had with Fresno County and their pension, the public pension fund, where the county purchased mortgages originated by CalHFA. I thought that was really a creative way, and this was 10 years ago, and Fresno County had no investments in the county with the local pension funds, right? And the partnership with CalHFA got them to do investments locally. So I just think that there's this untapped world out there that I think CalHFA would have a stronger opportunity to leverage CalPERS or CalSTRS or many other retirement funds than, say, us individually. So I just think developers individually. So I just think it'd be interesting to explore. I was really struck, as Steve was, around that, explore the partnership to identify alternative funding. I was just totally struck by that as an idea.
Thank you, Director Prince. Please go ahead.
Great, thank you. Next slide, please. Great, now turning our attention to Goal 3, which is around being a trusted advisor. This goal serves to inspire us to continually work to affirm CalHFA as a trusted housing finance advisor that understands the needs of California's diverse communities. Our strategic focus on multifamily continues here with targeted developer outreach and roundtable discussions to build partnerships, strengthen stakeholder engagement, and improve our processes and ways of working together. And Director Henning, to your earlier point, with our targeted developer outreach and roundtables, we are quite mindful of the work that's going on under AB 519. In conjunction with that, we'll be taking what we can from that and really thoughtfully engaging any developers that overlap between those groups. We have similar interests in some of the questions they're asking within the 519, but some of them are quite different as well. So we're not overlapping and reaching out to the same group, asking the same questions that another entity has just asked. It's somewhat different, but something that we're quite mindful of as we carry forward in this work. So these engagements will increase our understanding of the developer community needs and have those findings inform our own program implementation. It will also serve to support our efforts in other areas of this plan that are focused on generating revenue and increasing unit count in the multifamily space. Next slide. Additional activities to increase partnerships and strengthen trust with external partners and the general public include a comprehensive website redesign, focusing heavily on improving the user experience and overall functionality of the website. And again, here we will be engaging with our stakeholders for feedback to inform the overall design. Any questions around our proposed work in support of Goal 3? Seeing none and moving us forward. This brings us to our fourth goal around operational excellence, which calls on us to invest in continuous improvement and cultivate an inclusive and highly qualified workforce. This year, we'll continue to cultivate an inclusive culture through our policies, our processes, and providing support to our workforce. Next slide. We'll also be building upon extensive work that's taken place during this fiscal year within our multifamily division and look forward to implementing an updated asset management team structure and professional development plan. This work will provide a critical foundation as we endeavor to expand our multifamily portfolio in the coming years. Next slide. Great. And then in terms of our objective to retain that highly qualified talent that we already have, we will be implementing plans to celebrate key milestones and also support the continued professional development of our workforce. Next slide. And finally, in our pursuit of operational excellence, this year we'll be looking into upgrades to our single-family lender training system to accommodate online and on-demand lender training delivery. We'll also be exploring technology solutions to streamline the multifamily lending origination, underwriting, and closing processes. Again, just thinking through that lens of how can we better serve, our business partners through our own processes. Any questions?
Related to, you're to continue to access and implement new initiatives to evolve and strengthen CalHFA's Racial Equity Action Plan, and then you go into also your vendor diversity. Given this administration's abhorrence of any reference to diversity, equity, ethnic, women, any special population, do you, and first of all, I support these goals, let's just be clear, okay? So my question is not in opposition, it's relative to, do you think that this would create any unanticipated consequences at the federal level in reviewing a plan that specifically relates to the areas that you've called out specifically here? I support them wholeheartedly, but I didn't know if there would be negative consequences to the agency through funding or any other action under this administration.
Thank you for the question. We have been part of the drills looking at our book of business and our funding sources to see if there would be any of unintentional consequences or effect. We don't feel that, and the necessity that we feel and the importance this brings to our workforce, to our business, to our employees feeling safe, included, respected, and heard, we feel that that benefit outweighs any sort of negative impact. So I'll take one. This is me, and I'm going to stand for it. So if there was a negative impact, it wouldn't be foreseen at this time. But I don't think we should shy away from doing what is right, especially when it comes to our staff and making sure that they continue to feel safe, protected, and welcomed at the workplace. As far as the vendor diversity, I do think that, you know, while we are not required by law to adhere to the contracting guidelines that the state of California does, we also do think it's important to spend our dollars wisely and invest in California businesses, small California businesses, disabled veteran businesses. And so not only do we do this in our contracting, we actually do this in our bond execution as well. We take these practices very seriously. And so again, I think it's just the right thing to do, and I'll stand by it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Williams. That was and thank you, Interim Director Franklin. That was a good answer. Director Prince.
I want to go back to the website. So I don't think the website's been updated for a long time. Do you know when the last time was updated by chance?
90?
Yeah, it feels like the same one that I've seen for 12 years. And so I'm really excited about the idea of changing it. I'm just kind of curious if you have data around like the visits that happen, how long people stay on websites. Are they finding what they need right now? Or is it really just a outdated website that like people go to and they spend a second because they're not finding what they need?
Our marketing and communications director is also an extreme data nerd, and I say that in the most loving way possible, Kathy. So they have all that. They can tell like if I hovered in this corner, if I went to this page and not that page. We actually used the same data collection methodology for the mortgage relief program and the website there because we were getting hits but not applications, if we remember 2 or 3 years ago. So that is still capable for the current website. But we do think, again, with the reorg, with the prioritization of trying to attract more business for us in the multifamily space, we need to take all of that in and realize that we need to present the best, most easy use forward. So also I want to highlight that the website rebuild will be taking in feedback from the development community, having focus groups. We're really trying to be mindful of that, making sure that our technology platforms are aligned and we'll be able to, in a future iteration, either put an interface on or communicate with other platforms if we so want to connect, like a single app for something. I don't know. I heard that once. So, we're really trying to be mindful of the technology we're bringing in and also that experience for if we're going to grow our book of business in this marketplace, we need to present a very seamless transaction for the development community.
Yeah, and I totally understand the kind of formality of the website, but we're really all about people who are served, and there's just an absence of any warmth and purpose to the website. So I don't know if that matters when, again, like who's visiting the site and what they're looking for, but it definitely feels a little cold to me. And so I'm excited to see what happens through that one, to tell you the truth. So.
Yeah, I think one of the things, the ahas, I guess, or the takebacks I had from participating in a lot of the tribal listening sessions are those communities just didn't know what we could do for them. And recognizing that those communities are very unique in their needs, and I'm not trying to typecast anyone in any one bucket, but they just didn't know that we could work with the HUD 185 loan. They didn't know that we had a down payment assistance. So I think we'll be doing both and I appreciate you highlighting that we have two sides of the house and two customer bases, and we'll be recognizing both in the build.
I actually have a follow-on question because I noted the website also, which in the materials was to initiate a comprehensive overhaul. Is there a timeline for all this? Is that in the fiscal year or what's the sense?
In this fiscal year, we intend, I think the RFP's already written and is waiting review from our legal office. Yeah, so we're ready to go to kind of kick this off as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you. Secretary Moss?
Just a quick question, and congrats on the last business plan of the 3-year plan. It's very exciting. Just curious about how the new business committee, in its ideation of new ideas and the reorg, how would you think about integrating new ideas in as we look to approve this plan that might come? Is that going to be more part of the strategic planning process, or do you sort of imagine a way to, if things arise through those tables that might help guide you all closer to some of your goals of expanding the business? How does that fit in?
Okay. Sorry, who talks first when there's one microphone? Yes, and I mean, I think I pride the team here at CalHFA in not only our passion, utmost passion to create housing in whatever capacity we can, but also our agility and flexibility. I like to say I like to hire MacGyvers. I don't know if that dates me or not, but I think that as things come, we're ready for them. We did, again, try to keep things in this plan, things that we felt that we could hold ourselves accountable to and that you guys could hold us accountable to. But I think that also in the operational budget there, you can see the seeds of us ready to be able to support and go when those ideas land. I think that we're staffing the ability to be able to support the new committee out of the reorg from the get. We've already identified, kind of who we can attribute, focusing on the production, because I think that, I guess, like to get on the soapbox, I think that committee is a conversation item. It's a collaborative space, and so we're very excited to be able to help facilitate and administer that opportunity to do that. Also, Director Prince and other directors, if there's an opportunity for us to connect, a good idea, we're here to do that. I hope that this isn't seen as limiting for us to be able to grow our business and our products. We do get a lot of midstream things, and that's okay. We've created the opportunity for us to grow. Also, I think that when you talk about technology, you talk about the website, you talk about the developer feedback, we've taken a lot of time to understand who we are, our needs, but also our special sauce, our secret sauce, or what we're doing. And so as those ideas come in, we're able to just get it done. I mean, I think CalAssist is a great example of that. We saw a need, there was a fund ready for that, and we launched in 3 months' time. And that included a website, press, a new application portal, staffing, et cetera.
You took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say that's a perfect example of how willing and able you all are to use existing infrastructure, generate the new ideas, and respond. So great appreciation for that. Thank you.
I might also add, I think that on the board side, the New Opportunities Committee, Dr. White chairs, is a good vehicle for sort of managing or processing concepts where there's a board involvement in what staff is working through. So I think that's a useful vehicle as well. And I'll think Dr. White
Yeah,
has
a
a
number
comment.
of items that Director Prince, Director Russell, and I've heard yours a number of times.
Repeatedly, yes.
So it's bubbling under, like it's not off the table. But what's come out of that committee so far, My Access, the RFI that Irwin is working on, those are heavy lifts. The RFI in itself, it is that alternative capital lane. And, you know, he's working on something now that I think is pretty exciting. It's just one tool. But to your point, yes, we're thinking about pension funds, CalSTRS, CalPERS, Lacers, other institutional asset owners, names that you didn't bring up. You know, there's Nuveen Real Estate, they're in the affordable housing space. There's a lot of names out there. So we're trying to get to all of those avenues. So look at it as a playbook, and we're going to create tools in this playbook. And the one, I'm not stealing your thunder on what you.
I swear I just heard you steal this thunder, but that's all right.
There's a lot of stolen thunder here.
Believe me, Irwin he's working on something. Yeah. So I'm hearing it as the chair of New Opportunities Committee. I hear all of that, and believe me, we want to get to all of that. It's just we do this in a very cerebral, robust way. So these products, these ideas are impactful. So you're all being heard.
Dr. Russell?
Thank you. No, I wanted to tie 2 points together here if I can. The professional training, development training, technical training, and the promotional video. So my experience as an organization that does a lot of trainings of folks that are made generally available is people self-select for things that you would never think would show up, people you would never market to, but more typically to live events where they're engaging with people. And so I think if you did technical trainings that brought in an atypical or non-traditional audience, you would find prospective staff members. And sometimes they're 2 steps removed from what you're recruiting for, but we can also provide those steps in many cases, the trainings. I'm talking about residents of affordable housing, LMI households that we're currently serving. They know and understand the value and need for some of this kind of work, and they would be the ideal future employees of this organization. So I would just encourage you, a video, I sometimes think they go out into the world. The actual engagement of individuals, in our experience, brings people out into areas where they might not otherwise proceed. And so I encourage you to think expansively. Again, technical training, professional training, and marketing can be one thing in some cases. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other items you'd like to add? This has been a rather robust, wide-ranging conversation, and I really appreciate all the time invested to sort of walk the board through this, and the comments of the board members. It was very helpful. I want to say, unless there's any other comments that staff would like to add, are there any other comments, questions from the board? In which case, Courtney, could you see if there's any public comment on this item?
If any members of the public would like to make a comment, please raise your hand or come forward. There's none at this time.
Yes. Thank you, Director Prince.
Sorry, I didn't have a turn. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you.
I yield to Secretary.
Jump ball. I'll give that to Secretary Moss. So we have a motion made and seconded to approve Resolution 25-19 to authorize the updated agency strategic plan for fiscal 25-26. Courtney, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Cabildo?
Yes.
Chair Cervantes?
Yes.
Secretary Moss?
Aye.
Oh, Mr. Hardeman?
Aye.
Mr. Henning stepped out. Mr. Prince?
Yes.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Dr. White?
Yes.
And Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Director Velasquez? Resolution 25-19 is approved.
Great, thank you all very much. And again, Kelly, Erwin, Rebecca, thank you all so much. We're going to move on to agenda item 8, which is the proposed operating budget for the upcoming fiscal year.
All right, let's go. That's fine. So let's get started. On the first slide, the agency's annual budget is a multi-month process that starts in February, generally starts every February with the setting of revenue expectations for the following fiscal year. It culminates in the budget presentation that you see today. New to this cycle is the next slide, which is sort of a trend, and I think it's kind of important for the board to sort of see the underlying trends in terms of revenue because they've been incredibly volatile. So coming for the single-family program, just to note, the A's after the letter means actuals and the E's mean estimates. So for this current fiscal year, that's 2025E, it's the estimated actuals for this fiscal year, and 2026E is the budgeted revenue expectations. Single-family revenues are projected down due to, again, the lack of Dream for All funding and the uncertainty and the volatility in the capital markets for single-family programs. On the next slide is the multifamily revenue trends. This is, again, with the same scale as the single-family program. Multifamily revenue trends have been very flat over the past couple of years. In fact, incredibly consistent, ranging between approximately $29 and $30 million annually for the agency. Overall revenue expectations are $57 million. Again, single-family revenues are down 26% year over year. Multifamily revenues are up 7%. Overall revenues are expected to be down 12% year over year. Does anybody have any questions? I know I'm going to break here because I think it's really important to underscore the change in the volatility in the revenue expectations for the agency in the upcoming budget year.
Questions, comments from the board? Yeah, I'd like to drill in on that just a bit, because uncertainty has been sort of like, I think, the most used word in this meeting. And it's on the financial market side, but also the policy side, or the federal policy side. So I guess my question would be in terms of like vulnerabilities here. It's really striking how much the graphic for single-family revenues kind of bounced up around, again, skewed last year by Dream, or this current year by Dream for All. And multifamily is rather stable, but where are our weak points with respect to revenues? I'd like to get a handle on that.
Right. So again, multifamily revenues, again, typically we have a lot of visibility in terms of the calendar, the interest earnings, and that is to the point in the board's March workshop, is we're trying to grow the interest earnings base of the agency so we have a sustainable source of income. I think one of the, in a conversation with a director another director in my office last week, if you look there, so the interest earnings that are in this next fiscal year, those are ones we can count on year over year typically. I know some of our assets do pay off in the multifamily side or they refinance outside of the agency, but typically we can count on them year over year. You can see there's about almost $15 million of interest earnings. But the rest of the income is sort of on fee income. And so that is very volatile on a year over year basis. So our weakness, in my opinion, is on our single family program side, which again, we depend on rate setting on a daily basis, depending on TBA market executions or our new My Access Bond Program executions. And that also is affected by the capital markets, just slightly different investor base and then mortgage-backed securities in the TBA market. But again, our ability to set competitive rates in that market and also the supply and affordability of homes in California really are driving the single family revenues. So that in my opinion is sort of where the volatility is and where the weaknesses of the agency are.
And to translate, I mean, when you say interest earnings, I'm assuming we're talking about the spread we make on our deals.
Correct. Just like every other HFA, a lot of financial institutions, we lend at a rate and we borrow at a different rate, and we earn the spread in between the two. As you know, I think apparently I'm going to be Zeus. I'm going to steal my own thunder at some point. But the interest rates have been very volatile. Even when we started hedging in 2021, you know, that there's a lot of risk involved, you know, no matter what we do. And so it isn't even sort of the current market conditions, it's looking backwards too. So there's a lot of volatility in the interest rates.
But it does represent sort of an annuity income for
Correct.
us as opposed to the fee income, which is depending on what's happening
Yeah.
in the cycle at a given point in time.
Correct. And yes.
And just make sure I'm clear on my understanding of this, which is the more transactions we feed into those bond indentures we've got, the bigger the pot of money that we're using to make the spread off of. I'm not saying this very clearly, but if we want to grow the annuity side of our revenues, it's feeding the bond indentures. That's kind of I think that's the linchpin here, right?
Yes, and to the extent, right now, you can see, again, it's interest earnings are a fraction. It does not cover the overall operating expenses of the agency. If you rewind the clock back 20 years, it did. And so we are we're in a more financially vulnerable place now than we were 20 years ago. Other HFAs have been able to sort of recapitalize themselves and grow their indentures to again, not only cover operational expenses, but then be further lent out in terms of subsidy going forward. So because we're a government agency, all of our earnings can go forward to essentially develop new programs or support existing programs when we have that interest earnings level.
And I suspect this will be a linchpin to the upcoming strategic plan discussion we have. I mean, because that so much hinges on that. If we could cover our expenses just with the interest earnings or the spread, we're set. If we can generate more than that, we can plow that back into furthering housing.
Yep.
I mean, that's the virtuous circle.
Or the corollary, because I know you, Erwin, you've done sensitivity analysis, you've looked at like all kinds of assumptions, and you've come up with your best guess for right now.
Yep.
I think the risk, as I understand it, is we make a commitment, a loan commitment today, and a year from now, when it's refinanced, the interest rate doesn't cover our costs, right? And so I'm just kind of curious, as you've done your sensitivity analysis, and going back to Chair Cervantes, I think your question's spot on, is the risks that we have. So what are you thinking about, and maybe this is on the operating side, what are the things that tools that you have to address if there's a revenue shortfall that you didn't expect? I mean, because I do think the volatility is going to be worse going forward. I don't know why I feel that. It feels like the worst has not come yet. And it's kind of hard. You want a budget adopted, so you have to have something today, but it is very confusing about what's going to happen as we move forward.
That's a great question. So the agency, this board of directors approved a financial risk management policy in 2022 and has amended and restated, and also approved further amendments in 2023. And in that, it set up an operating reserve fund. So typically, we do have enough financial wherewithal to weather any storm. However, I will say that before we get there and declare a financial emergency, there are obviously revenue or expenditure adjustments we can make. Obviously informing the board, but there are revenue expenditure adjustments we can make before we get there. And it would be, again, to the agency's benefit, the strength of management, the strength of the leadership of this board of directors to, make those adjustments prior to withdrawing upon its operating reserves.
So I knew we had reserves, but I forgot about the policy and the dollar amount. So I'm glad to hear that, and I do think that that's something to remind us to make sure. You said two things that are bouncing around in my head. One, you talked about where we today may not be as strong as where other HFAs are. I feel like today we're way stronger than we were 12 years ago, right? I mean, some of us remember how frightening it was when I first joined this board. And so I felt like we are in this amazingly strong position. So now I'm kind of curious about, and not for today, but later day, like comparing us to other HFAs. I would love to understand what is different about us and what have they done differently. Lessons learned or best practices kind of thing.
Absolutely. I think there's probably some board workshops, and speaking of, I could
They
talk
should
for
go to NCSHA and learn. Is that?
I could present to you for hours on it. We can have
No, I
could
appreciate it.
do
I
a
think it'd be
podcast.
something good for us.
Unfortunately, I think you've only got 10 minutes, but.
No, I think it'd be great to learn down the road the best practices that
Oh, absolutely.
HFAs, and again, I think that we are financially so much better today, CalHFA is, than it was 10 years ago, and so it feels like different footing right now than back then.
Oh, absolutely. And we came back from the brink. You know, if you look at our lowest ratings ever, they came right after the Great Recession, and we've made a lot of changes externally. I think when we look at sort of the risk to the agency now, it's because there are other forces sort of like being imposed upon the agency itself that affect sort of our production, and we sort of have, in our comeback from the Great Recession, have downsized our indentures and sort of looked at a sort of a more narrow view of what we should be doing. So it's shrunk our asset base, and now we're trying to increase that back again. So we have good footing to do so. It's just, you know, the timing of which is challenging to kind of both, you know, with a smaller asset base, but also trying to grow with all these external challenges against, you know, that are being pushed upon the agency itself.
Other questions, or actually, I don't see any other questions. Oh, Director Covey will go.
So I'm from Los Angeles, so of course in Los Angeles, something that's weighing very heavily in our community is the disappearance and the kidnapping of families. Have you, in developing the operating budget, has that been a consideration? Because I imagine you have a lot of mixed status families that have purchased homes or were in the process of purchasing homes, or like a chilling effect on families, especially in the Latino community, but other immigrant communities. Have you looked at like that dynamic and how it potentially could impact CalHFA?
We have, in collaboration with the administration, we've been having a lot of open dialogue on our programs and how not only our programs, the effect it may have on the programs, but also how we're connecting with those communities, making sure that there's no unintended consequences in connecting with us in any way, shape, or form. We had, for example, had a in-person event in the Altadena area, and there was proper notification of law enforcement at all levels, as well as it was in a private facility, so that we had an ability to protect anyone who decided to come in and apply for CalAssist that day. And that's really being led through the administration itself in collaboration with the secretary and her teams. We're they're more boots on the ground than us, but they're, you know, all of our products and services have been evaluated with them in mind, and especially in connecting. I don't think that we are not directly affected in as far as like the budget and revenues, I would say. We have had dialogues about home ownership in those individuals. I don't have a response for that, obviously, but we have been talking at the agency and administrative level what that looks like and how we can contribute and be supportive. I will say, I guess from a revenue perspective, there's limited impact, but I want to state for the record that we are thinking about how we're connecting to those communities.
I'm mindful of the clock here, so if we could continue on with the expenses side.
On page 6 is the agency's operating expenses. The proposed expense amount of operating expenses is $50.5 million, up 9.2% year over year. As in prior years, the expenses are mainly driven by salaries and benefits, which are approximately 70% of the agency's overall expenditures. I think there's a following slide, but that's, you know, it just shows net operating income. But if we want to have questions on the agency's operating expenses, I am more than happy to address them.
Questions, comments from the boards on the expense side? I've got one. It just 9.2% just unscientifically seems like a rather meaningful increase. I know we're adding staff positions to do certain things like in multifamily and so on. But so let's throw out the scenario that Director Prince was kind of getting to, wherein let's say we do hit turbulence and it's severe later in this fiscal year. Is there how much maneuvering room do we have on the expense side to manage things? Is that I mean, it's a process, and I don't want to get into the details here, but I just want to see how staff is thinking about this.
So I think I'll start, and the Chief Deputy can respond. You know, I think to the extent we see revenues falling and expenditures, above where we're tracking them, I think that, as the agency's Director of Finance, I would recommend adjustments in staffing levels, and then as well as professional services, right? This represents, the agency's contracts typically have a termination clause within them, and we would go forth and again, make adjustments as necessary to keep the agency's revenues north of expenditures. So I don't know.
Yeah, so Director Tam and I are in concert on the expenditures. We have regular check-ins, the budget's being constantly reviewed, as well as the revenues. You guys see it quarterly. We also, as an executive team, meet very frequently where we're talking about the actuals. We will say, and I will just keep it consistent, the multifamily pipeline is something hard to project as most of the deals close towards the end of the fiscal year. So, but if there was turbulence in that sense, there's a lot of, when you see 22% in the contracting item, those are all we can terminate at any time. Also, these aren't ongoing costs. A large portion of the contracting dollars are for the initiatives around the lending platform. Also, the website rebuild are high-cost items that we feel that are important to, as a one-time expenditure, but we wouldn't obviously not be spending money that, we felt like was inappropriate in any way. So there's a lot of checks and balances between that and the actual kind of execution of things.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. Other questions, comments from the board? Director Hennessy.
Is that reflective of the governor's removal of the blanket?
No, the travel is actually in-state travel. We have kept out-of-state travel the same year over year, so there's a 0% dollar increase in out-of-state travel. In-state travel is mainly attributable to our inspectors traveling to do their property inspections on the multifamily side.
So this is all just, the travel I'm seeing here is just all in-state?
No,
no,
there is
it's
out-of-state travel as well. We do participate in out-of-state items such as from a policy perspective, connecting with different, so we would be reflecting, our out-of-state travel will reflect the governor's budget letter around necessary. So we will be looking at that and approving it ad hoc in the necessary field. But most of our out-of-state travel is what we do participate in is collective conversations at the federal level, policy level discussions, connecting with the other HFAs, et cetera. So that essential conversations that we participate in.
Okay. Other questions, comments? I don't see any. Courtney, can you see if there's any public comment or input on this matter?
If any members of the public would like to make a comment, please raise your hand and come forward. There's none at this time.
Okay. So I'm going to pull it back to the board. We do have a resolution to approve the budget. I'd like to see if there's any other thought, comments, or input that the board might have. And if not, then ask for a motion to approve Resolution 25-20.
I move approval.
Director Prince, thank you. Was that Director Gabildo?
Oh, we could second each other, okay.
Jump ball. Director Gabildo moves and Director Prince seconds on Resolution 25-20 to authorize the operating budget for fiscal 25-26. Courtney, can you please call the roll?
Yes, Ms. Cabildo.
Yes.
Chair Cervantes.
Yes.
Secretary Moss.
Aye.
Mr. Hardeman. Aye. Mr. Henning. Aye. Mr. Prince. Yes. Mr. Russell.
Aye.
Director Velasquez. Aye. Dr. White.
Yes.
And Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Resolution 25-20 is approved.
Great, thank you very much. And
All right.
Mr. Tam, you're back up again for capital markets update.
Sure, it's
Agenda item 9.
It's our thunderstorm presentation. I know I'm the last person to speak again before adjournment, so I'll try to keep these remarks short. Here's the story, right? I wanted to step back and take a look at a big picture. I know the board has been presented with a lot of emails stating that we've posted preliminary official statements and then all these presentations about the successful sale of our bonds. So I just want to take a step back. We've done a lot over the past couple of weeks here as an agency. We've issued 3 series of bonds, or have priced 3 series of bonds. We've executed a new letter of credit. And so I really wanted to, again, to try to provide a, answer the question of why have we done this, and sort of how did we get here? And then at the end, sort of highlight the recent success of our bond transactions. On the next page is our timeline. This journey has been a long one with the agency and the board. We started in 2022, again, with the foundational policies, making changes to our investment and debt management policies and our financial risk management policies, and adding a bond disclosure policy that was board approved. So, we try to build a foundation for the future. A couple of years ago, I will say, so just keep in mind, if you want to listen to Thunderstorm, that will be one of the key features that we'll talk about at the end in terms of results. But sort of along the way, we've picked up our highest credit ratings ever. We've won an NCSHA Finance Award, and we also achieved the lowest spreads in 2024 of any HFA. So we really have done a lot of work over the past couple of years to set us up for the current successes. On the next page, part of it, too, is that how do we explain to the market what we've done? And we have engaged S&P to provide a second-party opinion, an SPO, over our ESG framework. So as you know, our multifamily bonds, the AHRB Affordable Housing Revenue Bond indenture, is rated sustainable, which means it meets both green and social characteristics for bonds. And our taxable single-family bonds are rated social bonds. And so again, we've switched from a project-by-project basis to a framework basis earlier this year in terms of our bond issuance. Moving on. We've done 3 bond issuances overall in the multifamily space, and this again has allowed us to increase the agency's interest earnings that it receives over time. I'm not going to really sort of belabor the point, but there's a lot of information here in terms of us, again, setting up a financing structure that we can use and use again. Going back to the timeline, we terminated or paid off all of our bonds underneath the 1997 indenture. So starting a new one in 2023 was the way to go in terms of a refresh, modernizing our approach to finance in the capital markets. And the same thing on the next page with the home ownership side. We paid off our single-family bonds in 2022. That was a indenture that was 40 years old, so almost since the founding of the agency. And that was a switch from mainly because our prior indentures were whole loan based. We would own whole loans to a MBS based indenture. We also modernized some of the terms and conditions and harmonized them together. One of the objectives in terms of the agency is this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for CalHFA. We have 2 new indentures, and I drilled it into our finance teams, our lawyers, and our investment banking team as well to try to harmonize the 2 as much as possible. Again, recognizing that we have multifamily on one side and single family on the other side, so it's not going to be 100%, but even in terms of like the nomenclature in our disclosure statements, how we draw funds, the fund structures all try to be parallel. It makes our lives easier. It makes our accountants' lives easier as well. But again, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity I think we took advantage of to harmonize 2 new indentures. It's unlike, I don't think any other HFA will ever do the same that we just did.
If I could chime in just for a second. I mean, from spending my career in the bond world, this is the inside baseball of it all, wherein you really want to have a document that works, and having a set of indentures like this that kind of speak to each other, which simplifies the effort for staff and ongoing administration, is really very thoughtful. And so having the opportunity to sort of get rid of a 40-year-old single-family indenture, come up with something which reflects the market as it is now, and you can adapt going forward. It's not something you think about all the time, and probably just as well, but it does make life a lot easier for an ongoing operation like we've got here that you can then build on. So I just thought I'd drop a parenthetical note just to say job well done on that regard.
Absolutely, I appreciate that. I think the thought, at least at the staff level and the prior indentures, was it was financial wizardry to do anything within the indentures, and I was like, we don't have Hogwarts for finance, so we don't want to do that anymore. So we were trying to again, simplify everything, make sure that staff understands, because they're responsible for the day-to-day operations, including, again, not only on the financing side, but the fiscal services side in terms of the flow of funds and the account nomenclature, really important to get right. And this was our one chance, because we also, as you issue more bonds, it gets more and more difficult to sort of redo things going forward.
I think that Erwin has just done an amazing job for our organization. So I just want to echo that real quick. So let's give him a big head.
You can.
I wasn't going to offer you that, but I think it's point well taken.
Wait, you didn't even hear the punchline yet. So on the single-family side, we stood up a new program, and that's the My Access program. It was done without any additional state resources, no allocation from CIDLAC, just completely a financial borrowing in the capital markets. And so that really is one of the key. And we, although it's only representing less than 5% of our overall output on the single-family program side, the whole point of setting up a new bond program is that it provides this flexibility for the agency in terms of access to capital markets in a separate route than its current TB execution. So we have two routes now to finance single-family programs.
If I understand that, because your job is one that I don't understand in housing, and I know most jobs, you're basically taking advantage of that AA+ rating to access and monetize the financial strength of this organization.
Essentially, yes. We're also obviously working with our GSA partners to provide essentially the insurance behind the pooled MBS. So yes, but all correct in terms of our access to the capital markets. The one key feature is that we're able to do, actually there's a key feature, it's actually better for our borrowers. So we're actually, if you look at our current programs, we believe that the average interest cost will be $15,000 less per loan. So if you wanted to go to the TBA market, which was our existing execution, it would be at a certain rate. We're able to offer a slightly lower rate, which again results in about $15,000 of savings, assuming that obviously the loan is outstanding for 30 years. But that it is. The way I want to pitch it is it's a win-win, right? The agency wins because we receive annuity income and it's a different execution method, and our borrowers win too because they ultimately receive the same funds at a lower cost. Let's talk about, sort of on the next page, I'm going to switch back to our multifamily lending just for a second. Rates have run up significantly since 2021. So when we started thinking about what risks are to the agency, way back when, interest rate risk was really high on my mind. And it may not be sort of continuing. The risks seem to have abated somewhat in terms of sort of the dollar amount risk, right? Rates have gone up 300 basis points, 3%. This is a graph of the 30-year MMD. When at my first meeting here at the agency, I think it was 1.5%. So you could borrow tax-exempt bonds at 1.5%, and now it's 4.5%, not including credit spread. So it's somewhere even north of that. 300 basis points is a lot. Is it going to go to 7.5%? Probably not over the next couple of years, but rates are projected to still remain elevated. So I think that's sort of the dynamics in the current market. I see Chair Cervantes, did you have any questions here? No.
I just would echo the point. I mean, interest rates, it's been an astounding run-up, but long expected. I think everyone was just debating how long would the good times last at rates at 1.5%, and
right.
They're clearly over now. Yeah.
Right. And so what did we do about when we identified a risk? What did staff do at the agency? We came to the board. We amended our financial risk management. We said, hey, there's a risk. We formed a group we have a financial risk management committee internally. We came to the board with amendments of policies that allowed us to hedge and do something about it, right? Because beforehand, I think as a staff, the policy was don't hedge. Right, we were very afraid of executing long-dated swaps because that's what got the agency in financial trouble all that many years ago. And we actually lived with those swaps until we terminated them in a swap termination initiative in 2022 as well. So it was not a great thing to kind of get stuck with financial instruments and derivatives sort of without purpose. So they were orphaned. So if we switch to the next slide, what did we do? We hedged future interest rates. So when rates were at 1.5%, we started hedging our future multifamily commitment. And we just priced $157 million of tax-exempt multifamily bonds early in the end of last month. Because we acted in 2021 and 2022 to hedge the agency's risks, this agency received $24 million in revenue from our termination of hedges. That's a lot of money. I was almost saying we should get people with checks here in some ways, but our hedge counterparties paid us $24 million and that we will recognize as revenue for the unwind of this program. And to Director Prince's point, I think in the last meeting, it was immediately used to pay down a portion of the bonds. So we recognize as revenue, but essentially it goes to offset the principal amount of bonds that we will be issuing. That's a lot of money. It's half the interest. So you think about the interest rate risk that the industry incurred, that's half of our operating income in any given year is what we avoided by hedging rates in 2021 and 2022. And that's just on this deal, by the way. We also have an unhedged, we also have a hedge portfolio that is valued at over $35 million on our remaining commitments. So we've been very active in the capital markets. We've hedged appropriately in terms of our future bond commitments, and it's paid off incredibly well for the agency in terms of at least in this deal, $24 million of revenue, and in upcoming deals, possibly somewhere around the $35 million of additional revenue to the agency. We also, in the structuring of this deal, we had multifamily loans that we did not hedge, and we had to keep some bonds short with a put bond structure. We used those in the 2023 and 2024 deals. In this 2025 deal, in part because of this $24 million we received, we were actually able for the first time to issue bonds without a put bond, which takes away some of that short-term risk from the agency. So it was, in my opinion, a very important transaction for the agency to have. And it all, again, was due to the fact that we planned and executed. We set the wheels in motion a couple of years ago, and now we're executing on that same plan.
I think, Director Russell, that is your requirement of making something out of nothing.
And then just on the single family side, we also priced our $80 million tax please. This is, again, the first time we've been in the market for two separate series affecting both of our production units. Nobody remembers when. It's something that many other HFAs do on a routine basis, and CalHFA sort of gotten away from that. And our return to the capital markets in both single family and multifamily production almost simultaneously was really key. We're back, and we're doing lots of great things for Californians. So we did finance all the reservations to date on the agency's My Access program, and are setting the stage for future success in the program by attracting new bond investors. That's pretty much it. We'll take any questions.
Any comments or questions from the board? Is that Secretary Moss?
So, Erwin, the idea is to grow this program from the 5% to more. And is the thinking that the 22, 23 investments or hedging is coming to fruition now? Are we doing that sort of now work for the future? And is it going to be similar?
It may not necessarily pay off in the same way. In fact, what we do is we look forward whenever we commit and make a portfolio hedge basis based on our expectations for future interest rates. In 2021 and 22, we felt interest rate risk was the key risk to the agency, that we essentially wanted to hedge every outcome to future because we thought there was essentially 100% chance of increase.
Got it.
And so when we make these hedges now, there's a little bit of calculation. We're trying to be like, well, if it's, let's say, this is just an example. Let's say if it's 50% up, 50% down, then we'll hedge 50%. We won't hedge the full thing. But in 2021, when rates were at 1.5%, it was the opinion of myself and anybody I could talk to in the agency that rates are going to go up, and I'm really certain they're going to go up very shortly. So we did hedge. We couldn't go back in time. We couldn't jump in a time machine and hedge executions prior. But going on a go-forward basis from 2021 to 22, we did hedge all of our commitments.
I think that's a really good question there. I want to touch on that, but before I do that, are there any other comments or questions from the board? Yeah. No.
I just have one. Because Secretary Moss, and that just gives us more dollars for Dr. White to think about in the innovation, right? I'm really excited about what's happening here.
Yeah. Virtuous circle. And I think the caveat here is that we don't think we may not necessarily see the same kind of results that you saw with those hedges, because that was done in a cycle where interest rates were really low. They've gone up 300 basis points. So yeah, we're going to get a big payoff. But, you know, if rates go up or down by 25 or 30 basis points, it's not going to be that much of an impact.
That's right.
But the key point to me is that we're addressing risk. And, you know, when I came on the board, we still had these legacy swaps in our portfolio. And I was happy to see through the work that Erwin and his team did that we got rid of those. Those are the hangovers, if you will, literally and figuratively from the 2000s when all these agencies were doing long-dated swaps that carried huge risk that was really underappreciated at the time. And now we're sort of doing these, like, we are using swaps or derivatives, but it's in a really controlled way, really for that exposure we have between when we make a commitment on a loan and we go permanent.
Yep.
So that's a good way to manage things. And I was frankly kind of astounded when I figured this out in talking with Erwin that we hadn't done that. And we were really had real exposure on a number of our transactions, which I think you've managed to work through. So kudos on that. And I think we've got a program going forward where, yeah, we have risk exposure, but we're sort of doing our best to sort of hedge that. And I think that's the key. We could take a little hit here and there. That's okay. It's just avoiding the big hits, which is what the agency went through back in 2008 or so. So that's job well done on that score. So, any other questions, comments? Thank you so much. Much appreciated. With that, we're going to move to, we're running a little over from the target I had, but we're getting close. We're going to move on to agenda item 10, which is informational written reports. There's a number in the package with some really colorful graphs and so on. I want to see if there's any questions the board might have on those for staff. I'm sure if there are questions that emerge, you'll all reach out because it's a pretty vocal group here. And then other board matters. So these would be things that we haven't, that are not on the agenda, we can't really dig into, but maybe someone would like to have that addressed at a subsequent meeting. There's a few different topics we talked about earlier that I'm sure we'll pick up in July or later. Any other items that the board might want to consider? Director Russell?
This is a very broad kind of thing. What I know of our portfolio and our loans is what the ones that rise to the significance of being over 15 million. I have a huge blind spot about everything else. I'm wondering if we can think about ways that we as a board can be more informed. If is it a roster, is it some more information so we can put what we're looking at here in the context of the larger work. That is not too much work. Hopefully you already they're keeping a spreadsheet or something, but is there a regular periodicity that makes sense?
There you go.
I just feel a little blind.
Yeah, we can pull out the spreadsheet. No, we can bring a portfolio, some sort of portfolio report. I'm looking at Stephanie if she wants to commit to more than my ambiguous statement.
I just want to note that for our new deals that we're originating now, you are seeing 12 out of 13 of the 2024 MIP deals. And I imagine it will be similar for 2025. So there's a question as to whether that's the right calibration, but right now you're seeing almost everything that we're originating.
That's answered one of my primary questions. I had no idea what the proportionality of
But I think Director Prince had a good idea of a biannual or some sort of portfolio report.
Happy to do that. Yeah, absolutely.
And the broader discussion for a later board meeting might be, at a prior action, the board set the threshold at 15 million, delegating to the executive director the ability to deal with the 15 and under. I have no idea if is that an appropriate benchmark? Should it be higher? Should it be lower? I forget how many years ago that action was taken. I think it was before I joined the board.
Well, and that roster might help us make that decision.
Yeah,
right?
so that may be something to think about, which is, because we could spend all our time going through loans as opposed to other things. And that,
right, well,
yeah, I missed that.
I think that we're looking at, in a more global context, to bring to the board a proposal on how we're looking and reviewing the loans to streamline efficiencies. We've been collecting some data about how the process we currently are in, we only have like a 90-day window to get these deals done, and pomp and circumstance take 60 of them. So, no, so we are actually looking to bring that as a more global conversation back
Thank you.
with data.
Yeah, it sounds like a good conversation. Any other items for
I'd just
future
like to
consideration?
reaffirm, as we look forward in strategic planning, to look at what we can do to incentivize production of single-family homes in addition to supporting down payment and closing cost assistance. I think there may be an opportunity for us to be a catalyst for additional development, particularly on the infrastructure side, looking at that as well.
Okay. Thank you, Director Williams. I don't see any other hands raised. So Courtney, can you see, this is agenda item 12 now, public comment. Is there any comment from the public, members of the public on items that we have not discussed in the agenda?
If any members of the public would like to make a comment, please raise your hand or come forward. There's none at this time.
Great, thank you. And with that, we are on agenda item 13, which is adjournment. So the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all so much.